The Kray twins, Reggie and Ronnie Kray, were two of the most infamous figures in British criminal history. Their rise to power in London during the 1950s and 1960s, their subsequent reign of terror, and their eventual downfall are legendary, cementing their names in the annals of crime history. This documentary will explore their upbringing, their lives as criminals, their impact on society, and their eventual tragic end. Early life of the Kray twins. Ronnie Kray was born on October 24, 1933, and his twin brother, Reggie Kray, was born just a few minutes later. The twins grew up in a working-class family in East London, an area that would later serve as the backdrop for much of their criminal activity. Their parents, Charlie and Violet Kray, were of Irish descent, and their family struggled financially. Despite these difficulties, the Kray family had a strong sense of pride and an unshakable bond, which played a significant role in the development of both Ronnie and Reggie. Growing up, the twins showed early signs of trouble. They attended local schools but were often involved in fights. Their behavior was a reflection of their environment, the harsh streets of East London, where young men had to fend for themselves. In their early teens, both brothers were sent to a juvenile detention center, marking the beginning of their long association with the criminal underworld. However, the Kray twins did not only indulge in petty street crime. They had a certain charisma and an intense ambition that would eventually propel them into the criminal elite. In their late teens, the brothers began to make a name for themselves in the London underworld, quickly ascending through the ranks due to their physical prowess, their connections, and their ruthlessness. The rise to power. By the 1950s, the Kray twins had established themselves as formidable figures in London's criminal scene. They were involved in numerous illegal activities, including armed robbery, protection rackets, and extortion. They also started running nightclubs, which allowed them to launder money from their criminal enterprises while maintaining an air of respectability. Their presence in the London nightlife scene, especially in the East End, became legendary. The twins were also known for their violent and unpredictable nature, which further fueled their reputation. They made sure to keep their enemies in check by using fear and intimidation, often resorting to violent tactics to eliminate rivals. They ran their operations with military precision, managing a wide network of criminal enterprises. But they were not just thugs. The Kray twins also understood the importance of maintaining a sense of loyalty within their crew. They surrounded themselves with trusted individuals who would protect them at all costs. In addition to their criminal activities, the Kray twins cultivated relationships with influential figures in British society, including politicians, celebrities, and even the police. They were known to socialize with prominent individuals, including Hollywood stars such as Frank Sinatra, who was known to frequent their nightclubs. This combination of criminality, power, and celebrity helped the Krays elevate their status to an almost mythic level. Crimes committed. The Kray twins' most infamous criminal act was the series of murders they orchestrated in the 1960s. Their criminal empire was not just built on robbery and extortion, but also on violence and murder. Among the victims of their violent actions were Jack, the Hat, McVitie and George Cornell. Jack McVitie was a member of the Kray twins organization, and his murder is one of the most notorious events in their criminal careers. McVitie was killed in 1967 for attempting to cut a deal with the Krays' rivals. Reggie Kray, who was known to have a certain level of respect for McVitie, was said to have been deeply troubled by the murder, but the Krays' belief in loyalty and power overrode any personal feelings. McVitie's death marked a turning point in the Krays' descent into full-blown criminality. Another key victim was George Cornell, a member of a rival gang. On March 9, 1966, Ronnie Kray shot and killed Cornell in cold blood in the Blind Beggar pub in Whitechapel. This murder was particularly brazen and audacious, as it took place in a busy public space, further demonstrating the Kray twins' dominance over the London underworld. They believed that their actions, no matter how violent or reckless, would not face consequences as long as they maintained their power. In addition to these high-profile murders, the Krays were involved in numerous other violent acts, ranging from brutal beatings to the intimidation of business owners and civilians alike. Their criminal empire stretched across London and even beyond, and the fear they instilled in others was palpable. The Krays were not just violent criminals, they were symbols of power. The Kray twins and the downfall. Chapter 4. The Kray twins' criminal empire, however, was not destined to last forever. In 1968, their reign of terror came to an abrupt halt. After years of running an extensive criminal operation while simultaneously maintaining a facade of respectability, the Krays were finally brought down by the police. The police had been investigating the Krays for years but had been unable to gather sufficient evidence to arrest them. However, in 1968, the twins were arrested on charges of murder, conspiracy, and other serious crimes. This followed a lengthy investigation, which included wiretaps, undercover operations, and the gathering of testimonies from former associates of the Krays who had been willing to turn on them. The twins were convicted in 1969 for the murders of Jack McVitie and George Cornell, as well as for their involvement in a range of other criminal activities. They were sentenced to life in prison. After their conviction, Reggie and Ronnie Kray were sent to different prisons to serve their life sentences. Reggie was placed in a high-security prison, while Ronnie was transferred to Broadmoor Hospital, a psychiatric facility, due to his mental instability. Ronnie Kray had been diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, and his erratic behavior made him a danger to both himself and others. Reggie, on the other hand, was known for his calm demeanor and more measured approach. Despite their imprisonment, the Krays continued to wield influence, even from behind bars. They maintained connections with the outside world, and the criminal associates continued to carry out their bidding. However, the twins' time in prison was marked by deteriorating health and personal struggles. The deaths of the Kray twins. Ronnie Kray died on March 17, 1995, at the age of 61. His death was the result of complications from his long-standing mental health issues. He had suffered a heart attack while still serving his sentence at Broadmoor Hospital. His passing marked the end of an era, as the Krays were no longer active players in the criminal world. Reggie Kray, the more business-minded twin, had a somewhat different fate. He spent years in prison, where he suffered from numerous health problems, including cancer. On October 1, 2000, Reggie Kray died from complications related to his cancer, at the age of 66. He had been released from prison on compassionate grounds due to his terminal illness. Reggie's death was less publicized than Ronnie's, but it nonetheless marked the final chapter in the story of the Kray twins. Legacy of the Kray twins. The Kray twins left behind a complex and enduring legacy. On one hand, they were ruthless criminals who terrorized London for decades, and their actions caused immense harm to countless individuals. On the other hand, they became legends in the British criminal world, often romanticized in films, books, and documentaries. Despite their criminality, the Krays were seen by some as icons of working-class defiance, and their story has been portrayed in various media, making them figures of cultural fascination. However, their violent actions and the pain they caused should not be forgotten. Their rise and fall serve as a stark reminder of the consequences of a life built on crime and violence. In conclusion, the Kray twins' journey from troubled youths to notorious criminals, followed by their eventual downfall, is a story that has fascinated the public for decades. Their legacy, one marked by violence, fame, and infamy, continues to capture the imagination of people around the world, ensuring that their names will not soon be forgotten. The Krays, in many ways, are symbolic of the dark side of British history, and their story serves as a chilling reminder of how power, violence, and ambition can come together to shape a life of both notoriety and tragedy.